Joining us now, member of the Intelligence and Appropriations Committees, Republican Congressman Will Hurd of Texas. He has a new piece in the Washington Post. I'm grateful for the border spending bill, but it's still not enough. Congressman, thanks so much for taking time with us this morning. Your district, I believe, covers more of the border than any district in the United States Congress. What is your reaction to the Inspector General's report of yesterday?
Well, the Inspector General's report it was expected because it was a similar report back in May. There have been, similar reports years ago when this really first started in 2014. The conditions in these facilities were worse than they are now. Border Patrol has been saying that these facilities were not built to handle the load that they've been seeing. And I've inspected many of these facilities, and you shouldn't hold anybody there for any length of time, let alone children. And ultimately, what we need to be doing is ICE and HHS. They need additional resources. They need additional facilities as well. Border Patrol was designed to hold people until they can turn them up. If they're an adult, they go to ICE. If they're a child, they go to HHS. And because HHS and ICE is also overwhelmed, Border Patrol has had to get in the detention business, and they are not prepared for that. The people are not trained for that. When you look at the number of people in these facilities, it's crazy. Clint has been in the news lately, and a couple of weeks ago, the high watermark was 700 children in a facility that was designed to hold 107. When I was there on Saturday, they had 60, and yesterday morning, they only had 25. But this overcrowding is a symptom of a much larger problem. And that larger problem, which is fueling this humanitarian crisis on the border, is lack of economic opportunity, extreme poverty, and violence, specifically in the Northern Triangle, which is El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. And we need to be addressing the root causes there. It's a fraction of the cost to do it there. Before it gets to our border.
So those are long-term solutions to invest in those countries. You all in the House, and you just voted for that emergency spending bill, $4.6 billion, to address exactly the pictures we're showing this morning. Where will that money go? And you say you need more resources above and beyond the $4.6 billion?
Yeah, absolutely. And that $4.6 billion is just for the rest of this calendar year, which ends in September. Department of Homeland Security was going to run out of money. I tried to put an additional $2.9 billion to help with the unaccompanied minor problem. Unfortunately, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle voted that down. I also tried to get an additional 100 judicial teams that are involved in these immigration cases. We have a backlog of 900,000 people in our immigration courts, and it is taking on average, I think it's 627 days, plus or minus a few days, in order to get through this immigration backlog, or get through an immigration case. We should be able to do an immigration case in under 9 months. So these are short-term fixes. Another area nobody is talking about is human smugglers. The human smugglers, the reason we saw an increase in last month, or actually in May, 144,000 people came in the country illegally. To put context, that number, all of 2018, you had 400,000 people come in. Human smugglers are getting better at moving people from point A to point B. They're taking these folks' money, and we are not doing enough to attack the infrastructure and disrupt the infrastructure of those human smugglers.
Karine?
Hi, Congressman. This is Karine Jean-Pierre. You mentioned that you have visited some of these detention centers, as well as we've seen your colleagues speak to accounts that they have seen down there recently in the past week. I would love to hear from you directly. What have you seen? Have you had conversations with some of the migrants, and what did they tell you?
I haven't had the conversations with the migrants, but I have seen the facilities in Clint. I know there's an allegation about people having to drink toilet water. DHS has come out vehemently, against that is not the case. That's happening. Nobody should be drinking toilet water, period, end of story. And those allegations should be taken seriously and investigated. What I saw when I was in Clint, and this is where they're housing unaccompanied minors, there's, you know, I was there during lunch, so they were eating noodles and burritos. They, you know, the big, you know, they switched to cotton blankets instead of wool blankets, which was a move from those Mylar blankets, which the DHS Inspector General criticized. I saw some kids playing soccer. I saw a young girl with markers, you know, in a coloring book. And again, the volume at that facility was only 60 at the time, which it had a high water mark of 700. Border Patrol is overwhelmed. I've seen you know, it's unfortunate. There's this a report about a Facebook a group where there's some pretty terrible comments being made. If an active member of Border Patrol was indeed making those comments, I believe they should be fired. DHS is investigating it. The Border Patrol Union has made this statement, because not only is it a breach of their code of ethics and code of conduct, but it puts the rest of Border Patrol, the men and women that are putting themselves in harm's way, you know, at risk. And I look at in Del Rio sector, they've done 422 water rescues in the Rio Grande, right? To give a number, that's in 8 months. All previous year, only 75. So the Border Patrol agents I know are the ones that are putting themselves in harm's way to save people.
All right, Congressman Will Hurd, we'll have much more on this conversation over the weeks to come. In the meantime, happy 4th to you, sir. Thanks for being with us.
Right back at y'all.
All right.